A real breakthrough in US-Ukraine relations. The United States Department of War has urgently requested permission to test Ukrainian drones and electronic warfare systems. In the future, Washington is considering the possibility of purchasing them for its own army after conducting its own tests. In fact, this means that after Donald Trump's persistence, the Pentagon has nevertheless decided to purchase drones and counter-drone systems specifically from Ukraine. This is a continuation of the big drone deal, or as it was called, the drone deal. Just a few days ago, it became known that the governments of the United States and Ukraine prepared a document outlining the terms of a new defense agreement between the countries in the field of drones. The project was coordinated by the US State Department and the ambassador of Ukraine to the US. It is the first step toward a defense agreement that will allow the export of military technologies to the United States and the production of drones in joint ventures with American companies. And here is the first confirmation of this project. And friends, there is something to discuss here. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, give this episode a like and leave any comment you wish. And friends, subscribe to my Telegram channel Pechi News. The link to it is in the description of this video. Also, in the video description, there's a link to my exclusively Ukrainian language YouTube channel. So if you want to watch my separate episodes in Ukrainian, be sure to go there and subscribe. And support the brand new, exclusively Ukrainian language YouTube channel. So here's some news you just can't miss, and you can't ignore it. But let me start from a bit further back so you understand the context. So, back on March 13, during the height of the US war with Iran, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, stated that the United States did not need Ukraine's help to shoot down Iranian drones in the Middle East. What could Ukrainians even know about these drones in general? At that time, Donald Trump admitted that Russia might be helping Iran in the war. However, he also noted that the US is helping Ukraine. In the Russian-Ukrainian war, they receive money for their support. And in this context, back then on March 13, the Fox News host asked whether Ukraine is helping the United States in defending against Iranian drones in the Middle East. In response to this, Trump said no. And then he added, quote, "We don't need help defending against drones. We know more about drones than anyone. In fact, we have the best drones in the world." Well, here we are 2 months later. Today, the Pentagon quietly admitted that it does need Ukrainian drones after all. Today, it emerged that the US Department of Defense has requested permission to test Ukrainian drones and electronic warfare systems. In the future, Washington is considering the possibility of purchasing them for its own army. And right now, the Pentagon is asking Donald Trump to finally sign the document formalizing such cooperation, since the US military has admitted that they need Ukraine's help. The point is that during the negotiations, Ukraine emphasizes that its weapons have already undergone extensive combat testing, but the US wants to evaluate the products independently, involving its own armed forces. This is called trust, but verify. As a Bloomberg source in the White House stated, the American side is likely interested in gaining access to critical technologies and the rights to reproduce them. That is, the Americans would like to legally, copy Ukrainian drones and electronic warfare systems, as Bloomberg writes, quote, "The Pentagon's growing interest is explained by the combat experience that Ukraine has accumulated over 4 years of countering Russian aggression. The combination of new technologies and tactics has allowed Ukrainian forces to strike deep into Russian territory, hold back the numerically superior Russian army, and inflict damage on oil facilities that finance the Kremlin's war machine." But that's not all. Earlier this month, Washington sent Kyiv a draft letter requesting tests of Ukrainian military products, and if successful, contracts will follow. So basically, they're saying, give us a badge, we'll test it a little, and if everything works out, we'll buy it. The letter does not contain details about the scale of the agreement and is not a direct deal, but it was the first step towards such cooperation and the first acknowledgement that the US is interested in Ukrainian products. The ambassador of Ukraine to the US, Olha Stefanishina, stated that as a result of work with the State Department and the Pentagon, a draft framework document was indeed developed, which is currently being reviewed by both sides. And here I would like to remind you that at the beginning of last week, it was indeed reported that the US State Department and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine developed that very framework document which is supposed to formalize a defense agreement that will allow the export of military technologies to the United States and the production of drones in joint ventures with American companies. And here I just want to point out how slowly decisions are made by Donald Trump in general. Ukrainian officials first proposed the idea of cooperation in the field of drones to the White House back in August 2025 after President Donald Trump privately praised Operation Spiderweb. Remember when Ukrainian drones were burning Russian airfields deep inside Russia? In addition to drones, Ukrainian companies are developing innovative methods and equipment for electronic warfare. The technology, first developed by the company Sign Engineering, which recently received multi-million-dollar investments from the US-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund, essentially allows drones to fly without GPS navigation to avoid signal interference. And now, the Pentagon also wants to get this technology. By the way, I had a separate episode on this YouTube channel about the development of new Ukrainian missiles. Be sure to check it out. So, this technology, guidance that works entirely without GPS, is already being used there. But the whole problem is Donald Trump's own skepticism. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine will ease restrictions on the export of military products only after Kiev is convinced of the protection of Ukraine's intellectual property, and in the fact that they are still able to supply enough equipment for Ukraine's defense under the conditions of Russian resistance. But the day before, US Army Secretary Dan Driscoll gave high praise to Ukrainian technologies. And so, speaking this month before the US Senate Armed Services Committee, he called the operating system for the Ukrainian drone network absolutely incredible. Quote, "It fully integrates every drone, every sensor, and every shooter platform into a single network. Our network simply doesn't do that. The general was impressed at the time, but here, of course, we should be careful." A representative of the defense industry explained that the draft document is not like a traditional technology transfer agreement. No. It is structured to allow the American military to test and evaluate Ukrainian systems in order to shape their own future needs. According to him, the US may seek to gain access to unique Ukrainian technologies, such as an AI-based homing system, navigation in GPS-denied environments, jam-resistant data transmission channels, as well as combat-proven tactics for their use. In addition, the Pentagon could use Ukrainian systems as a benchmark for comparison with American ones. But here's the main point right now. Sorry, you can't just hand over technology, even to allies. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially by donating through the links and details in the description of this video or by using the QR code on your screen. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my Ukrainian language YouTube channel. The link's in the description. That's all for now. Take care. Goodbye.